Hey there, it's your TTS Radio. We present some of the most entertaining stories from Reddit and elsewhere to you. Make sure to subscribe and enjoy the show. What is the most Karen thing a Karen has even done to you, personally? I deliver appliances for Best Buy. We had a woman call and complain that her fridge was not pre-cooled before it was delivered and that she had to wait for it to come down to temp. No one in the office was prepared for that one. When I worked at the Home Depot, a Karen told me that she didn't want any black men to install her flooring. I was in charge of arranging her order and told her that we don't select which individuals exactly will install her floor and that she'll get who she gets. She proceeds to have a fit about it, demands white installers, asks to speak to my manager. I'm so glad she did, because my manager's name was Dwayne and he was a real big black dude. Turns out she didn't want to speak to the manager. I cannot imagine how someone could say such a thing and not realize that they are the bad guy. Like, it literally boggles my mind. Someone once told me, "Don't get me wrong, I'm not racist. I simply don't want black people on my house because they are all thieves and I don't want to be robbed." Blew up at me for ignoring her son, who was trying to hit on me by saying "Kanaiki way" and calling me kawaii. I had never met him before and I am not Japanese. She called me a stuck-up racist and insinuated that I should be glad he was worldly enough to speak Asian to me. I just responded, "Sorry, no English." They had previously heard me speaking English with my friend, I'm pretty sure, and walked away. I present to you, the horsefly. Ultimate Karen animal. In case you've been lucky enough to never see one, picture something larger than the average honeybee, loud as fuck, and capable of delivering immense pain when it bites through your shirt. Told me I couldn't work on my car in my own garage at noon because she didn't want my fast-looking car to influence her sons to be hooligans like you. My neighbors, I call them the Dinkelbergs, would let their numerous kids play on other people's lawns. My dog would bark when they were on my lawn, so they called the police for a noise complaint. I have a similar Karen. She reported us to the homeowners we rent, and got us a 10-day notice, for eviction, for disturbing the peace. We were having band practice in our closed garage on Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. We went around and got all our other neighbors to give us notes about how they didn't care, most even enjoyed it. Fuck you, Karen, that I needed to leave the gym because I made her son feel like only fat people go to the gym. When I worked at a bakery, Karen bought a chocolate cupcake and ate half of it. Karen then asked if she could return her half-eaten chocolate cupcake, not because she didn't like it, but because she wanted to exchange it for half of a vanilla cupcake, something less decadent. Like most bakeries, we did not sell cupcakes by the half. She became offended when I asked if she wanted to purchase a vanilla cupcake. When I was working retail, this one woman had a big bag of coupons. Most of them were unusable because either they were expired or they were duplicates. She berated me because the system was rejecting most of the coupons. She called me stupid amongst other names, telling me I just wasn't doing it right. Then, as a typical Karen would, she asked to speak with my manager. My manager came and asked what the problem was. The women ranted about how incompetent I was because I didn't know how to scan a coupon. My manager looked at the coupons and the coupons were the problem, not me. My manager bitched out the customer for being disrespectful for me and told the customer to leave the store. I hated working there, but I'm so grateful that I had managers that totally didn't go by the customer is always right rule and weren't afraid to stand up for their employees. That was just one of many incidents. When I worked at a popular arcade chain, I had a Karen absolutely berating me because I wouldn't give her kid a prize they didn't win. So she wants a manager, and when my manager comes over, she straight-faced this bitch's whole rant until Karen goes, "Whatever happened to the customers always right?" And my manager leans in a little and goes, "We don't have customers here, we have guests. Customers always right, guests are usually wrong. Goodbye," and waved a security guard over to escort Karen out. Best day of work ever. I had a Karen come in with a bunch of coupons too. Most of them weren't accepted by the system because they were duplicates. She decided I was incompetent and demanded I call a manager because I couldn't even ring up coupons correctly. Who knows what else I can't do correctly. My manager came and Karen started saying that I had an attitude, that I was ignoring her. I refused to scan coupons because I was a lazy teen. She even said I cussed at her for bringing in a bag of coupons. I just kind of stared at her because who decides to try to mess with someone's job like that? I was so frustrated I had to walk away. But once I got home I thought of something hilarious, at least to me. I wished I could have just stared at her like I'm mesmerized by her talking and interject in the middle of the story and ask her with wide eyes, and then what happened? Worked at a grocery store and a coworker put a $99 sticker on my shirt. We were 2 of maybe 5 employees, so we were all good friends, and everything is funny when you gotta pass time on a shift, so I just left it there. Some woman came through my line and asked me why I had a sticker on my shirt, and I just kinda laughed it off. She asked if I thought it was funny, and I was like, not really, but sorta. She asked if my coworker put it there, to which I responded yes. She told me she was going to speak to the store owner cause it was disrespectful to behave that way at work. She told me to call my manager, and I did, but he was a super cool guy and knew this lady was a fucking idiot. She talked to the store owner and my manager about firing me to no avail. She accomplished nothing and was a cunt. The end. Came up to my register and asked for the price of a protein bar. Every item in the store had a physical price tag, because we didn't have scanners at the register. I took it from her, flipped it over, and let her know it was $2.49 before tax. She asked me how much the case would be. Normally we did discounts for cases, but they had to be ordered ahead of time, so I started explaining we couldn't do a discount unless. She cut me off aggressively and hissed I didn't ask for a discount. So I typed in $2.49 by 12, added tax, and told her the final price. She stared me down for a few minutes before asking me to get my manager. Once my manager arrived, she spent literally 10 minutes tearing into me, describing me as the least helpful person ever, talking about my bad attitude, complaining about how awful and rude I was, etc. 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 I was working nearly full time, 35.5 hours per week, and commuting to a school over an hour away 4 days a week. This lady took the time out of her day to break me down to the point I started crying. Thanks, Karen, I still remember you, hope you enjoyed your fucking protein bar. Asked for my manager's personal cell phone number to complain that I, 7 months pregnant at the time, would not carry a refrigerator, that she had not paid for in the cost of her room, up to her second-story room. We did not have an elevator, rather than just accept an upgrade for free because she didn't want to unpack her stuff. She refused to believe we had rooms without fridges and I was just being fat and lazy. When I refused to give her the cell phone number, she asked for corporate's number. I wrote it down on a sticky note with a smiley face. She came down later and asked to move rooms. I made her pay the difference. Left her card in the FPOS machine at the McDonald's I was managing as a teenager, rang me to say I needed to drive it out to her, that I ruined her night, ruined her family's night, owed her free food, and that she'll be laying a formal complaint when I refused all of the above. She showed up 3/4 of an hour later with steam blowing out her ears asking for her card back. Last we heard from her. I used to work at a fast food and a theme park when I was 18. Karen held up the line cause she was demanding us to assemble a food for her daughter, which we aren't allowed to do cause we go by a menu. My daughter can't have that. Well, what can you do for me? Do you want her to starve? Are one of the most irritating lines I ever encountered. Working retail one afternoon and here comes Karen with a return. At first glance it's no big deal, just coming in to return a shirt. She walks up to the register, hands me the receipt to start processing, and we exchange a pleasant greeting. I take the shirt out of the bag to examine it and it is beyond disgusting. There were brown sweat stains all over it, from the pits to the stomach to the shoulder. It looked like whoever wore it rolled in mud or some nonsense. I proceed to tell Karen that I cannot return the product because it had clearly been used and that only unused and resellable items could be returned. Karen threw a fit, started screaming at me and accusing me of calling her a liar and whatnot. I hold up the shirt and point to the brown pit stains and say, Karen, can't you see this stain? Oh man, did that make it worse. She continues making a huge scene and demands to see the manager. News flash, Karen, I am the manager and I'm not budging. After 20 or so minutes of complaining, she finally leaves saying she'll be complaining to corporate and getting me fired and blah blah blah. Fast forward a few days. A guy walks into the store, finds the first store associate he can and immediately asks for me by name. Uh-oh, here we go again. Anyway, my associate bring the guy over to where I'm standing and I politely greet him. The guy spends the next 10 minutes apologizing for his crazy wife Karen verbally abusing my staff and I a few days prior. Apparently, the guy went to the beach and did some type of CrossFit, Heat training class in the sand. Karen knows all of this, she was at the class with him. The guy ended up not liking the shirt for some reason and Karen thought she could pull a fast one on us by making a scene. Think again, Karen. I met plenty of Karens while working retail, but there's one who stands out. Karen was Indian and had the most entitled attitude of anyone I've ever met. She was also a regular customer, so we had to deal with her shit at least twice a week. Karen's favorite pastime would be to literally fill a trolley with clearance items. These are a nightmare as you have to reduce the price on the till manually. Management were worried about scanning fraud and so had disabled the multiplication button on the till. This meant that each item has to be scanned and discounted individually. Once all of her items had been scanned and discounted, Karen would always kick up a fuss over the price, accusing us of overcharging her and demanding to see a manager. Some managers would give in to Karen, which meant voiding the transaction and starting over. If they told Karen to get lost, she'd complain about never shopping here again and storm out, leaving a full trolley of goods to put back. Thanks, bitch. Either way, the entire shit show would take at least an hour. There was a nice moment of karma for Karen, however. One winter, we had an especially heavy snowstorm. Our policy in this case is to clear the car park access to the spaces closest to the door. We do this as very few people come out when it's snowing and it lets people park as close as possible. Not Karen though. Oh no. She pulls into the car park, drives into the uncleared section and tries to drive through a snow drift, hitting a covered bollard in the process. She then clomps into the store, demands to see the manager and proceeds to yell at him point blank. Apparently she was going to sue us and get every employee fired for not clearing her usual parking space of snow. Our manager responded by banning her from our store for being abusive towards staff. I was once dating what I thought was the sweetest girl. Very polite and almost shy when it came to talking to my friends. Then I learned that I have to take new girlfriends to dine in restaurants to see how they treat wait staff, because holy shitballs did this girl become an Uber Karen the minute someone was serving our table. Rude, demanding, contradictory, the works. Like, bad enough I dropped a $50 on the table to cover our meals, drinks, and a decent tip, before we'd even gotten our plates, and told said Uber Karen that we needed to break up on the spot. It was legitimately embarrassing to be in public with her at that table. The mother of a girl I went to school with, comes into the shop I work at 5:58 p.m, we close at 6, lights are half off, front door is closed, roller door is half down, and goes hi my name. I'm just running in to grab a few things. Before I can tell her not to, she's gone into the aisles. My manager comes over and goes, "What are you doing? We have to be done by 6. He went to find her, she's already got a basket full of things going, "Where are the capsicums? Can I just grab?" Keep in mind this is a fruit shop, half the items come off the shelves and into the cool room. My manager is literally the nicest guy ever and agrees to ring up her items as long as she pays card, as the cash is all packed into the safe. No, that's ridiculous, I only have cash. My name, hun, can you tell him I only have cash? So I tell her the exact same thing, that we literally can't access the cash once the safe is closed for the day. Oh. Well, can you just pay for it on your card and I'll get daughter to pay you back? I tell her that I can't do that. She starts shouting about how unprofessional we are, that the shop is awful because half the items are gone, we were closed, and that she's never coming back. Thank God. She avoids me at school events now, and I honestly feel sorry for her daughter. The stories I hear about this cow are shocking. Icing on the cake? Her name is actually Karen. I used to work retail, so I have come across my fair share of Karens. They were a huge reason why I went back to school and no longer work as a cashier. Anyways, one day while I was manning the registers with a few other coworkers of mine, I had a massive nosebleed right as I was finishing a transaction. I grabbed a tissue and quickly excused myself to run to the restroom so I could try to get it to stop bleeding. This meant that I couldn't say goodbye to Karen and give the little spiel about how I was oh so grateful for her shopping with us. Anyways, after about 10 minutes, I was finally able to get my nose back under control and headed back to the registers. I saw her waiting to the side with a scowl on her face, arms crossed over her chest, the whole 9 yards. She proceeded to scold me about how rude I was for not saying goodbye. After I apologized and explained that I had an unexpected nosebleed, she told me I should have tried holding it in and that the customer comes first. My favorite Karen moment is so similar to this. I had noticed my nose running while I was ringing her up, and didn't realize it was blood until a drop fell onto my white shirt. I very awkwardly tried to hide my face as we finished the transaction, no idea if she noticed originally or not, and then bent down behind the register to search for something to staunch the flow. My nose was really starting to stream by the time I found the tissues. I stood up facing away from the counter, so as not to unintentionally traumatize someone, and made a beeline for the bathroom. I hadn't taken 3 steps when Karen, who I hadn't realized was still standing there, started shrieking at me about my lack of proper customer service and something about how I should have offered to help her to her car, blah blah blah. I spun around, dropping the tissues from my face. I apologized and enthusiastically offered to help her with her bags, extending a bloody hand while blood from my nose oozed into my smile and down my cheek. She was so taken aback that she knocked over 2 displays in her rush to get out the door. Was at the park with my daughter, she was 3 at the time. Her and a couple other kids started to play together. Then she attempted to use the monkey bars. She's a very adventurous child. About midway through, she fell. I didn't do anything because she's fallen before and I want her to learn to get back up on her own and not be scared to try again. Anyway, one of the boys was about to get on the monkey bars too, until I heard a woman run toward him screaming to stop. She picked him up and looked at my daughter. Told her it wasn't smart of her to go on the monkey bars if she wasn't fully ready because then others might get that same idea. That's when I got up and went to my daughter's defense. Sternly told the woman to not speak to her that way and it's no fault of hers that she wasn't scared to try something new. She took her kid and left. Doctor here. I used to work in a public night shift service, kinda like an emergency room but for non-emergencies, to keep the hospitals clear of white codes, so anything from a fever to a sore throat, to prescriptions for urgent treatments, and a Karen walks in at 3 a.m. asking for a prescription for hypertension drugs, which isn't unusual, as people, old people, more often than not, but she looked 55 and, sometimes don't notice they're running low. Anyway, the law, not a rule, not my decision, the law, states that this service can only write prescriptions for potentially life-threatening conditions, drugs for a maximum of 72 hours coverage, so if you take 1 pill a day, I can only prescribe you a single blister. Here we don't have bottles, but blisters, and while I'm writing the prescription Karen casually mentioned that she was insomniac, and while cleaning the medicine cabinet she realized she was down to her last full blister. My pen stops, I ask her to repeat, full blister? Yeah. So I take the prescription, tear it in half, then again, then I throw it in the bin, explaining her the law. She gets mad, starts yelling and threatened to call the cops. Go ahead. Cops came, and she triumphantly announced that I'm refusing to treat her. I explain the situation, and they ask her if it's true that she has a full blister, and she of course, being a Karen who is always right no matter what, confirms it. The cops look at her, still with a look of triumph, waiting for them to arrest me, then at me, then ask her politely to leave, as I'm in the right. She's livid. The day after my boss called me and cracked up cause she went there during the day to talk to the manager, and she, my boss, told her the exact same thing. Never saw her again in there, weirdly enough. My sister-in-law is the biggest Karen the first I've ever met, complains in almost every restaurant we have gone to, but this one time they were moving house and my bro asked me to help. I was staying at their place for the delivery truck that was to arrive early in the morning. We were having drinks in my bed. Mattress was on the living room floor. At around 1:15 one said, I think I'm going to go to bed. She replied, are you kicking me out of my own living room? Not realizing she is crazy I joke, I guess I am. She said no one does that, and even though she had finished her last drink made herself 2 cups of tea. She didn't go to bed till after 2:30. She told me the next morning she stayed up to show no one tells her what to do. When I worked at a grocery store, I had a woman throw a conniption over a coupon. So, here's the skinny. The coupon was for half off a bakery cake. Our bakery cake. As in you can walk in the bakery, grab a cake we have made, and buy it. This is what the coupon was for. Well, Karen 5000 went to the frozen food section, got a frozen Sara Lee cake, and wanted to use the coupon on that. Now, I explained how the coupon worked to her. And keep in mind, this was not a tricky coupon. There was no fine print. It wasn't one of those gotcha moments. It was a very clear coupon in that it was abundantly obvious it could only be used in our bakery. Well, she threw a fit. She hooted and hollered. She demanded I give her the coupon anyway, but there was literally no way for me to do that without manager override because I was a peon. So then she insisted that I get my manager. Works for me. My manager comes up and, to my delight, it's Adam. Now, Adam is useless. He can't figure out how to do shit. I'm not entirely sure how this guy still has a job. So, she's screaming at him to give her the discount. But he can't figure it out. It's probably the simplest manager override function he'd need to perform, and he can't do it. So he suggests she buy a bakery cake for the coupon price. She sneers and says, I need a cake that says happy birthday. None of those cakes say happy birthday. What am I supposed to do about that? So I said, buy some icing and write happy birthday yourself. That did it. She left shouting at us that we'd lost a customer. Doubtful, since she had an account at our store and had been shopping there since the Stone Age. I hope that, in her darkest moments, when life seems cold and dreary and the world is against her, she thinks of me. She sees my face. And she suffers. I worked at a home improvement store for a while in college. I was a cashier in the garden section. This woman pulls up on the curb in a no parking zone. Grabs her fertilizer and soil. After I check out, she goes fucking ballistic that I didn't help load her car and she was going to report me to managers. Due to company policy, I wasn't allowed to. Other employees were though. Her face mole was shaking and everything. Over a bag of soil that weighed under 10 pounds and a handle of fertilizer.